Right, hi. Um, okay, quick tip for today, health tip. I was going to leave it to the end, but I thought I might forget it, so I'll just put it out at the front. Um, okay, so over the last 5 years, so all the things I've come up with in terms of health, to improve my health and, you know, so that I can think more clearly and get more stuff done and stuff like that, just to generally improve my life in every way. The one of the things that's made the most direct impact, I think, is cutting out vegetable oils out of my diet. I haven't completely cut them out, but like I had some, like a salad. I should have just used just olive oil, but I used a little bit of mayonnaise because I just wanted to just make it all combined together. But it was like a teaspoon, and it was like light mayonnaise, so it's only about 25% oil, so about a quarter of a teaspoon. And I suppose most days I probably won't have anything like that. And I've been cutting down. But that's one of the things that's got the most. It's not just cutting out vegetable oils. You've got to have good quality oils instead. Like grass-fed butter, animal fat like lard or beef dripping. Coconut oil. You can use palm oil. Apparently, I've never actually used it really in cooking. Supposedly, you're supposed to get the good quality one. Not the cheap one, the organic one, sort of thing. Which you probably should with everything. Go for organic if yeah. These things are new. Our bodies aren't like adapted to deal with vegetable oils. They're like a 20th century phenomena. Before that, nobody used to use vegetable oils. It's unheard of, apart from olive oil. But that was mainly people that used it on salads. Just a little bit, and that's kind of a different thing. Yeah, but you also need like those fish oils, the omega oils, and the DHA and EPA in fish oils, like oily fish. But you can't get that from the farmed fish, like farmed salmon. It's not going to have it in. It's all just fake. And it's really hard to get proper, wild salmon. It's like it annoys me because I can't really afford some of the stuff that people like Dave Asprey recommend. He sits there all relaxed and self-assured and confident, and he's telling you how you need to have wild salmon in your diet, and this is not enough for everyone. It just isn't enough. It's like it's a rare commodity, and it's just getting rarer and rarer and more in demand. Whether this kind of leads me on to the next subject, which is the subject of this video, which I mentioned a few days ago or a week or so ago, about making a kind of like startup, I suppose, or a kickstart thing. To get people to invest in, instead of like a pension scheme, right? Or I'm thinking of something that people can invest in. Just give me your money. Give me your money. Something people can invest in that's going to not only give them a good income back, but also a great lifestyle. And really good food, a really nice community to be around. People that are interested in improving their life in all different ways. In as many ways as possible. So it would kind of like work like what's that institute of human evolution or human advancement, something, I forgot what it's called now, but it'd be something like that. It'd be like almost like an institute for human advancement, but one where you can actually live there and, you know, put it into practice, so that you've got the most optimum systems, you know, with all the technology we've got, right? We've got and the knowledge that's now available to us on the internet and through YouTube and stuff. There's all this knowledge, right, about how you can create sustainable, like farms, that are almost like ecosystems. If you've got a relatively large area, just say, you know, 5 or 10 miles like square, you want a good chunk of land to be able to support a community, you know, of like, you know, at least 300 people, but also people coming and staying. So it's also like a university, but people come to learn about a sustainable way of life where people's experience of life is optimized in every way. So spiritually, emotionally, intellectually, like mentally, and physically. So that, you know, you're looking at optimum physical health, emotional health, mental health, and these things would be like part of a system which works as a community. So people that would invest in it would be like expected to take part in it as well, you know, as soon as possible, and bring qualities to it. Or if they don't have that many qualities, to come and learn through the system. Like it starts off like, you'd have to start off relatively small, but all the kind of like proofs of concept of, you know, have already been proven. I'm talking about things that have already been proven. So like for example, setting up a place where people who come in to stay for, say, a few months or 6 weeks or 4 weeks, the first week they're going to stay somewhere where everything's set up as though it was 35 years ago. You know, so the technology is right scaled down. There's no internet connection or anything. You know, you've got like the same kind of meals that people eat. Everything's basically scaled down to 35 years ago. And you stay there for a week, and it takes 10 years off your life. I mean, depending on how old you are, but for people that are sort of like approaching retirement age, it's going to take like 8 to 10 years off the way you feel for a lot of people, unless you're already, you know, feeling like you're a 20-year-old and you're in your 50s, which, you know, that's the whole point of it as well. You know, there's loads of stuff that, you know, that you can incorporate into a system, like a community that is also like a farm and a holiday resort, you know, and a university, you know, and a research institute. You know, you can just add layers of stuff without causing any real problems, and just increase the overall usefulness and benefit and profitability. Because like if you're using like all the technology available, and you've got people who are doing it because they like to do that sort of thing. I mean, I'm not very good with computers, so I'd need people to. It would, something like this would need lots of people involved, you know, with all different kinds of knowledge and you know, ways of working with things, you know, because you'd need to have people who work with animals, you know, and people that grow vegetables, people that can cook food, people who can be like hostess and hostesses, you know, to look after people when they're coming in, you know, and to keep the running of like basically, like, which would amount to something like a hotel, and then people to guide people round the place, you know, all sorts of people that are really good with computers, people that are good with business, you know, all kinds of people. Also, there's going to be like a lot of opportunities and a necessity for people to learn stuff. And there is, ah dear, I'm kind of a bit excited about it, you know. I know just trying to convince people that this stuff isn't going to work necessarily, but I'm still making this video more or less for myself at the moment. Okay, there are like technologies kind of like coming available, right, that enable you to, like, older people to learn as though they were like younger people. And there's also technologies enabling you to sort of almost pretty much grow younger. And it's like it's all coming out, you know. It might not be right now there for you to grasp like a pill that's going to make you like younger, but with a certain amount of work and a desire to sort of accomplish these things, as far as I can tell, you can basically influence or control so many aspects of your life and your aging process and your well-being. And it's like a science. It's become more and more like, with all this science and all this knowledge, the ability to feel good and you know, feel satisfaction with your life. Basically, as far as I can see, it's like heaven is at hand. You know, like it says in the Bible, it's there. We just have to create it. We've got all the pieces of the puzzle. It's just a matter of putting them together. Okay. I was thinking of making this video short, but there's some other things I want to say, like just about what I've been doing with the work. But I've got these like 2 books recently. This one, Game Changers, from Dave Asprey, and Tools of Titans from Tim Ferriss. And they've got just like tons of stuff that is about how to improve your lot in life in all different ways, you know. One of the things I've been doing recently is sorting my sleep out, like fixing up my bedroom so that I've blocked out all the light. And so like a couple of days ago, I got like an 8-hour sleep. It was great. Yeah, it's been literally been, I think, several years since I've had a sleep that long, and it didn't take all that much work. You know, just lifting my bed up, putting my bed on some concrete blocks so it's at an angle, so my head is higher than my feet, and blocking out all the light. You know, eating properly. I've been doing intermittent fasting as well for the last few days. So not eating until like after about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So not eating any food until 1 o'clock. But that also no bulletproof coffees, just water really, a little bit of lemon juice and water and salt. Really, that's about it. Yeah. And not eating after 8 o'clock in the evening, so like a 7-hour window. That's been like good for my mind. I felt like my mind is like on a nice even keel, which is nice. Yeah. So yeah, the other thing about this this idea of like creating like a farm. I mean, there are quite big farms out there that you could buy up quite cheap, right? Because they're not very productive. But if you use the right techniques, like permaculture, holistic management techniques, and a little bit of extra input, you know, maybe adding some minerals to the soil if the soils are lacking certain minerals, to improve the soil, like certain types of rock dust, you can get quite cheap. You could transform a non-productive farm into something really vigorous. And if you're using like organic techniques, everything pasture raised, because there's techniques to doing this, you know, and making it sustainable. And have you seen the prices? I'm not joking about making money as well. Have you seen the prices of like of stuff? You know, the pasture raised stuff. I'll give you an example. Let me just get some to show you. Like this. Look at that. Can you see how big that is? It's like, how many grams? It's such so expensive. Doesn't even tell you. Oh, 350 grams. You know, so it's like 3/4 pound of concentrated bone broth, right? Well, it's like a pound. It's about £35 it costs. It comes from Australia, and you know, it goes a long way. You know, a teaspoon, you know, does you like a cup of hot drink, or it can boost up a soup, and it's incredibly nutritious. You really feel the benefits if you've got your guts aren't in very good condition, which most people's aren't. You really notice it. It really helps to heal your gut. That's one of the main. It does loads of really good stuff, and it's got loads of stuff in there that's just incredibly good for you. But £35. I mean, look. I mean, even if it's concentrated, it's just made out of bones from cows, and also the meat. The meat is really, it's really hard to get, and it's expensive, you know. And the more and more people are getting interested in this stuff, and they want this stuff. The reason it's so expensive because not enough people are producing it, you know, and it's just not available. And you know, and like it's so much better for you. Basically, the meat that people are eating, and the products from the factories where the animals are fed on grains and they're not out eating proper food or getting proper exercise, it's poison. Really, it's not. You're better off not eating it. Whereas this stuff is like medicine. It's like there's no comparison. That's why people will pay 5 or 10 times as much money for it. You know, so there's money to be made. You know, there's like, this is just a little bit of bone. It's basically not much more than just one bit of bone, you know, like one bit of bone, or like say as tall as that, like a thigh bone, just cooked down and made into a paste, and it's like £35 you have to pay for it. So they're just making money here. You know, these businesses have been going for like a while, and they're just getting bigger, and more and more people are getting interested in them. There's more and more like concentrated organic pasture raised bone broths on the market now. You look on YouTube, and it's not on YouTube, but eBay. You know, they're really expensive. People are buying them and you know, praising them, saying how fantastic they are. This is what people used to eat 100 years ago. Everyone used to eat this stuff. You know, now everything's raised in factory farms, and it's all full up with pesticides and antibiotics and growth hormones, and there's hardly any nutrition in there because it hasn't got enough minerals, and you know, it's diseased. The reason it's full of antibiotics is because the animals would die if they didn't have the antibiotics. They would all get ill because they're not being raised in a healthy way. They're like sick people. They're like great. It's like if you was a cannibal, it would be like, you know, do you want to eat an obese sort of sick person? No. You want to eat someone that's just like healthy and that, you know. It's the same with animals, you know. You want to eat a healthy animal. Okay. So, you know, there's things like this. The meat. The price of the meat, you know, like pasture raised meat, it's really hard to get hold of it. It's got all your omega oils in, like proper wild salmon has got. but you almost never see it nowadays because almost everything's raised in factories and fed loads of grain because it fattens them up really much quicker, and they use growth hormones, so they can produce an animal in a third of the time and with twice as much meat on it, sort of thing. So it's going to take 2 or 3 years to raise a normal, healthy, pasture-raised bull. Whereas if you, in a factory, they can probably do it in like not much more than 6 months, you know. Fatten it up, just feed it loads of grain, and it just goes, it balloons out, you know. But it's just crap. There's no goodness in there. All the oils in it, like there's not the omega oils in there. It's not gonna do you any good. Whereas if you're getting pasture raised beef, it's going to have the omega oils, like the omega-3s and stuff, you know, the things that you want to be in there. It's going to keep you healthy and so you can think properly. That's it. That's the other thing. You know, it's like, this is why I talk about the school system and that, and how people have been dumbed down. I heard about this, like the oil thing, you know, the vegetable oils, and like years ago, you know, it must have been at least like 15, getting on for 20 years ago. I became aware of this. I heard about it, you know, but it's taken a long time, you know, and I'm still trying to change over to eating the right stuff. It's so hard to get, you know, and it's a lot more expensive, and it's a lot of hassle, you know, because if you're used to eating like snacks, like corn chips and potato chips and stuff, you know, and other types of fried food and takeaway food, sauces, convenience food, it's all got vegetable oils in, and it's all destroyed. It's really poisonous. It's fucking poisonous. It's literally poisonous. It causes really, really severe health problems. You think about what's happened in the last 100 years, right? Well, in the last 70 years, since they started using vegetable oil so much and producing it and make they brought out margarine. Does anybody use margarine? I don't know. I still see it in the supermarkets, but I haven't bought any for years, you know. Awful stuff, you know. I've always preferred butter. It's just that I was told, everybody was telling me, no, don't eat saturated fat, it's bad for you. And apparently that's a complete and utter lie. That lie has caused the deaths and miseries of hundreds and millions of people, you know, probably billions. It's ruined the lives, you know, and ruined the health of probably billions of people already. You know, this lie that saturated fat is bad for you, and it's totally not true. You know, it's completely the opposite. The vegetable oil is really bad for you. Those polyunsaturated fats, they're the ones that are really bad for you, and that's what's really bad for you. And you know, you go back 70 years, what fats were people using? Lard, butter, you know, that's it. You know, beef dripping, pork fat, and butter. That was the fats that people used to use. Maybe some olive oil, you know, in some cooking. If you're a bit if you want a bit of fancy cooking, you know, you could have a bit of olive oil as well on a salad or something. You know, or in your spaghetti, a little bit in your spaghetti, maybe. But apart from that, it was like we never had all these vegetable oils. And what happened 70 years ago? People started getting fat. People started getting diabetic. People started getting depressed. People started getting cancer. You know, people started getting Alzheimer's disease. You know, as soon as we brought in vegetable oils, and I've noticed, just going back to what I said at the beginning of my little health tip for this week, today's video, which is not very reliable. Not my health tips, my videos, as far as daily videos are concerned. But I'm working on it. I'll come up with a system maybe soon. But anyway, yeah. As I've got rid of vegetable oils out of my diet, my heart problems virtually gone. You know, I had heart problems for it's over 20 years now. You know, since I was 26, I had heart problems. I started having heart problems like I could feel my heart beating, like not just feel it, like you could feel like it was like in a vice, like angina pectoris, So I've had to work on that for like the last 20 years, just over 20 years now. And I'm still working on it. Oh, and another tip as well, because about the work that I've found, it's like I kind of mentioned this, but it's like it's easy to sort of like feel that you've made progress and you're getting towards the end of the work, right? But it doesn't work like that. It's ongoing. It's never ending. So there's always stuff to learn. There's always more research to do, and yeah, I'm just learning so much stuff. I'm at this nice position at the moment where I'm making. I feel like I've made progress. I'm still making progress, and I can see loads of areas where I can still make progress, and I can see what I need to do to make progress, and it all seems quite straightforward. And the world is my oyster kind of thing, I suppose. And I'm just sort of like, just kind of like relaxing into it, getting I'm finding out an exercise routine. What it seems like, one of the things I've come up with in one of those books is that people that are healthy and stay healthy like into old age and fit and healthy and enjoy their life, not all of them, but a lot of the most successful people, very high achievers, right? They have a routine, like a workout routine. And it doesn't change all that much. Basically, it's the same routine. They come up with something, a routine that works for them, and they just stick with it, and it keeps them, in really good shape. So that's one of the patterns that tends to happen, is that people find a routine that works for them and stick with it. So that's one of the things I'm sort of kind of working on at the moment. Just tweeting and adjusting little things to find out what works best for me, because there's so much work to do. I mean, I foresee kind of doing making more adjustments as I go on, but coming up with some kind of more or less stable routine that I can do maybe twice a week, or maybe a little bit more than that, maybe 2 or 3 times a week, or some stuff every day or most days, some stuff once or twice a week, that kind of thing. And other regimens throughout the year, things like fasting, intermittent fasting, and creating an overall pattern throughout the year: exercise, diet, fasting, so that they all fit together in a good, harmonious way, and you get the most out of it. And also, I mean, one of the things I've been looking at recently is, which I don't hear talked about by a lot of many of the gurus, the sort of what do you call it, biohacking gurus like Tim Ferriss and Dave Asprey. But I'm sure they probably incorporate it to some extent. Maybe I just haven't heard them talking about it, because I can't possibly have watched all their videos. That's one of the reasons I invested in those books, so that it saves time having to watch all their videos. Because, for example, the Dave Asprey book, it's the knowledge condensed from 450 of his podcast radio shows. So that's like 450 hours condensed down into a book, which is going to take me maybe 20 or 30 hours to read, because I'll go over it, maybe even less than that. But there's a lot to think about, and it just saves a lot of time having to like go through all those videos. So it seems like good value, even though it's like it costs £11. But I already feel like I've saved loads of time and energy, and I'm getting like results already, so I can see more possibility for more results that are quite straightforward. Was I going somewhere with that? Oh, I've got no one to watch me, so no one to pay attention and keep me on track. But also no one to interrupt me, so that's good as well. Okay. Yeah, to me, they just seem like good investments. Those books. In relation to the work, right? They could be agents, those guys, as far as I'm concerned. But you can still learn from agents. One of the things I'm finding out about it's not all like. One of the things I didn't like about the Matrix films was all the violence and the guns and stuff, and because in reality it's not really like that. That's just been really, really Hollywooded up. Well, at least in Britain it's not like that because we don't have guns much here. But in my experience, that's not how the Matrix works. It's more like how it affects your well-being. You can be like really like pissed off to the point where you just like you don't feel like living anymore. That's why people commit suicide. But people can do that to you. People can make you sort of so depressed and disillusioned about life that you just don't even, it's not even worth living. You don't feel like it's worth living. Or people just become dead inside, so that they're not really, they might still be going through the motions, but there's no spark of life there. So it can be that kind of death, that kind of like harm. It's a symbol of the Matrix films are symbolizing. I still don't like it though, because they don't really. It basically, most people are distracted by all the violence and all the special effects, and are really missing the plot. Unfortunately, they're not trained in symbolic literacy. That's what it is. But even so, I think all the violence was just really unnecessary and just over the top and just I don't know. Okay, so anything else about? Let me just think about the. How can I sell you this idea of setting up a research institute where ideally we grow hemp like in all its forms, like for rope, clothing, for seeds, for medicine, for drugs, or medicine and drugs. It's basically the same thing, but sometimes if you say drugs, people think you mean like cocaine and heroin and alcohol, but drugs are also like medicine as well. They're used interchangeably, so drugs and medicine. Okay, right. So right, let me just go on, because there's a lot more to say about this, and I want to try and get it out in all one sort of like video, I suppose. A lot of people think we're heading in a pretty dark direction. We're kind of overpopulating. We're using up our resources on the planet very quickly. We've become so dependent on certain like institutions, like these big companies that like these multinationals, for our food and production of food. And these are the people, you've got to remember, this is the thing you have to bear in mind. These are the people who've basically been poisoning everyone. They changed the way people eat by basically taking over. They're buying up all the farms, or forcing other farm people that are already farming into using their methods, because they basically outpriced everybody. They started producing all this grain and all these products, these vegetable oils and stuff, much cheaper than all the normal farmers could produce them, right? The farmers that were farming in a responsible way. They've used all these like products from oil manufacture for fertilizers, and then they've created all these pesticides. The food nowadays hasn't got the minerals that it should have in it, so it's not feeding us properly. So our brains aren't working. You know, it's a fucking it's a head fuck. You know, it's really fucked up. It's like they've really done a number on us. You know, and at the same time, it is a concerted thing. At the same time, they've banned the use of cannabis, so people can't have like very useful medicine to prevent things like and cure things like cancer and mental health problems, all kinds of things. You know, it's like it's a fucking all-out attack on the human race. You know, these people, and they're not controlled by humans. This is the other thing. It's like, oh, I start sounding like David Icke, don't I? I'm talking about like, it's like lizard people. They're not lizards. They're, maybe they are, but, oh dear. I just, it's hard to understand how these things can just carry on and why. They've obviously got like these people have obviously got like a little private army that and an information like gathering service to keep themselves protected. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. We're heading down this like dark path where there's going to be too many people, not enough resources, and these people that are clearly evil. There's no accident that they've done all this. It can't possibly be an accident, right? They've done all these things all at once, basically, to give people a really fucking stressful time, but maintaining a sort of veneer of control and righteousness and doing things by the book. You know, just as this is so depressing. I find talking about it depressing because they're so clever at what they do. You know, and it's admirable. I mean, I have to admire them, but at the same time, I really hate them because I feel like I've been seriously traumatized. Fucking hell. You know, I trace all this back to the written world. I don't necessarily blame people. I just think people don't really know what they're doing. They don't understand the what's really happening with things like the written word. They don't understand what it is, or how it affects them. It's like it's an artificial technology. It's a pre-runner to like the internet. You know, you wouldn't have the internet without the written word. So, and we rely on these things so much nowadays. One of the difficulties I think I'm having with talking about the getting rid of the written word and that it's an evil thing, because we're destroying the planet, or you know, we're being coerced into destroying the planet by these fucking whoever's controlling the governments and stuff and the media. Oh dear. Yeah, you know, it's depressing because we've got all the technology there. We've got mobile phones, right? We've got computers. We could easily we can communicate to everyone in the world pretty much easily in a matter of minutes. You know, everyone in the world could be basically notified of certain things within a day. You know, if despite what the media says. You know, if people wanted to make a movement, if they wanted to change the world and get rid of all these evil forces that are like fucking people's lives up, right? Right. This is the other thing is, right, this is a really complicated, entrenched problem. Like when I started talking about the oils, people, because most people are consuming all this vegetable oil, and poisoning themselves, it's poisoning their brain. Your brain's 50% oil. So when you're poisoning with vegetable oil, you can't think clearly. Your brain is like on like a feedback loop, you know, and it just like goes into tunnel vision. and it's like hard to know where to start with people, because I think people, so many people are not only have you got a dumbed down school system, so you've already lost 20 or 30 IQ points because of your schooling, which they could have given you 20 or 30 IQ points. Most of you would be gifted, you know, or geniuses, as we measure things nowadays, if you'd had a much better, if you had a proper education, eating proper food, and being taught techniques that are going to boost your IQ and boost your well-being and health and stuff, which they could easily do. We've known for years. We've known for probably, I'm sure, at least 100 years. They've known how to do this. It's just some of these people, it's hard to understand what their motives are. I can only really, I just keep coming back to the same thing, that they're just totally evil, you know, to want to dumb everyone down. And in 70 years, all they've done is like create loads of serious health problems in everyone. They're monsters. How the fuck can you, how the fuck, see, it's totally obvious what's going on. The thing is, right, you can tell people this, right? And because they've already been like they had their heads turned into jelly, they don't want to know. Most people just don't want to know. They just, and so it stays the same, and it just keeps getting worse. Yeah. So I see this kind of split. People that take this stuff seriously, you're gonna pay the extra money. You can do whatever it takes to sort of get the right food, avoid all this crap food. But it's getting harder and harder, right? So if you're one of those, and there's going to be a split. If people aren't going to take all this stuff seriously, they're just going to get more and more stupid, you know, more and more sick, and then they're going to just die out. Or at least a lot of them will, you know. They'll just have to have children younger and younger until they're like having children when they're 6 years old, because after that they get too old to have children. I can see some ideas for some movies, like, you know, a new version of like the Time Machine, you know, where like it might be a bit sort of difficult for people to handle. Anyway, so what's going on now? Yeah. So right, yeah, things are heading towards this apocalypse, right? So why not set up like a business now, something that you can do like as a business, more or less like a non-profit, but one that you can do as a non-profit. I'm sure there's a way around it, you know, like lawyers and politicians, they can just basically do anything with laws and words and that. So I'm sure you could like come up with some sort of strategy where you can grow cannabis, you can have an institution running a village where people live in it and come and go, and also put a holiday and a university all rolled in together, so that you could have quite a lot of income, right? And also sell your produce, because that will be part of the research, because it's a research institute, right? So you want to research if you can set up a situation where people can support themselves and still make enough money so they can trade, but basically have quite an insular, because it's a research institute, there's like quite strict boundaries around it. It's like an enclosed, like a mini, like almost like a wildlife reserve, you know, but for humans, you know, who are living much more naturally, you know, without all the technology and stuff. Now, you would still have technology on site, but in restricted areas. So I think most of what people would do, I mean, you might have like some sort of biofeedback training. You could do biofeedback training. There's a thing you can do in a week where you can become like a Buddhist monk who's trained for 20 to 40 years. It takes 20 to 40 years on average for most of these Buddhist monks to attain this state of mind where they're just full of compassion and kindness and enlightenment, and they never get stressed. They hardly ever get any, you know, stressed out at all about anything. They're just Anyway, it's like you can learn this through some special types of biofeedback. It's something that could also be incorporated in one of these places, like as like part of a retreat. You go there, you're getting the best quality food because everything's done on like in holistic management, you know. So yeah, so people are eating the best quality food. They're getting the like the first week to sort of like living in an environment where it's like 35 years ago. There's videos about this. There's some research has been done, so people can lose 10 years of their life. You know, they just feel 10 years younger, and they medically look and feel and seem 10 years younger. You can do that in a week. I mean, just how much money is that worth? People are going to come to these places, you know, and you can have like a conveyor system coming through. Let's say you've got to like, you only got to make a small hotel with like this, with maybe for nothing. I mean, it wouldn't be that difficult to sort of like house, you know, 20 people, 30 people, say. Just say it's even, yeah, say 20 or 30 people. They're going to gain 10 years, up 5 to 10 years on their life. They're going to feel that much better. Then they go and do the next week, they do the biofeedback training and become like a Buddhist monk who's meditated for 20 years or 30 years. In just 2 weeks, they feel 10 years younger, and, you know, they're like a monk who's like, you know, meditated for 30 years. What's that worth? I mean, people at the moment, they're paying £15,000 for a week of the biofeedback training, or $15,000, maybe £10,000. But of course, the price is bound to come down. The more people, so you start people training how to do it, and bring the prices down. You know, so you can get people in, and they're getting all these benefits, like. You know, they can stay in for different lengths of time. There's other things, you know, people, I'm sure people can think of other things that you can do in a week where people can get a huge amount of benefit. I know there are things, you know, for example, like the $50 billion guy, he does like an 8-day course. So that's not really much longer than a week. You know, maybe you could incorporate something like that, you know, after you've had all this other stuff, or, you know, do a condensed version of the work. You know, so you go through all the elements, you know, your physical body, because you've already sort of like worked on that a lot anyway. In the first 2 weeks, you could incorporate it into 4 weeks, where you sort of like spend an element on each one, or maybe 8 weeks or something, you know. So 2 weeks on each element, like working on the body for 2 weeks, then the emotions and feelings for 2 weeks, the mind for 2 weeks, and then the spirit for 2 weeks, you know. Just like you would do the work, but like as a holiday. So it's like, it's really in your face. There's no escaping it, you know. But also so that it can turn into a community. You know, a farm. It's like a holistic managed farm. You want to have everything. This is why you want quite a big farm. You want to be able to have all types of fruit trees growing, and nut trees and stuff, loads of herbs for medicine and for food. You know, as wide a variety of different plants as possible. You know, as diverse as possible, because then that ensures like tenacity of your environment. You know, your farm is going to it'll be very resistant to you know, things, you know, like climate changes and you know, all kinds of stuff, you know. Right, so there is a purpose for this. It's just quite a long-winded thing. I know a lot of you haven't got the attention span, but I need to make a much more condensed version. It's just like I need to get it out in one go to start with, so that I can see what I need to take out to make it more, you know, condensed, shorter. Okay, So, you probably have to look at, finding strategic areas where you can, where they're relatively isolated and defensible, I would say, but that would be one key point. If you're going to look at the way I see the future, and a lot of people are thinking this, and intelligent people, scientists and stuff, it looks pretty bleak. There's too many people. There's something fucking fucked up going on. There really is, and people are just not paying attention, and it's like they don't care. They're not looking after themselves. They don't have a sense of self-preservation as a species. To me, that is a really extremely high alert situation. That's one of the reasons I feel that I'm having particular difficulties with traumatic stress disorder, and I need drugs and alcohol. Well, I've spent the last, over 30 years, consuming cannabis and alcohol, just for my sanity's sake, because people just seem completely crazy to me. I often use the analogy for a long time I've thought about it like this, that it's like we're all in a bus, we're in a vehicle, all this technology, the way everybody lives and the way we are, we're all plugged in together. We're all like in the same vehicle. We're all traveling in the same direction into the same future, because what we're doing, the way all this, like the governments and the powers that be are messing around with all the stuff that they're messing around with, all the mining and the producing the chemicals and plastics and stuff, and all this huge amount of like technology and production and stuff that's creating so much pollution and toxic waste and all that. It's so irresponsible. These people they're either deliberately trying to destroy the earth. It's almost like I can't see any, as there is an or. They're deliberately trying to destroy the earth. There is no other option. That seems to be what's happening. There are beings in controlling this world and having such a huge, powerful influence. Forcing everyone. They've taken over the whole world. They've. This is why I'm really skeptical about when people say that Hitler and the Nazis were the bad guys, because what's happened since then is that the world has just got obese, diabetic, depressed, poisoned, just. If you look at it in just straight in terms of what effect it's had, it doesn't matter what you've been told about the Nazis and Hitler. The people that won the war seem to have made a really, really bad job of things. Now, I don't know what was going on before then or which direction it was taking, but that's another thing. The winners of the wars write the history books. So much of history's been obliterated. It's difficult to know what even was going on even in the 20s, the 1920s, 90 years ago. It's difficult to know what was going on then. Yeah, you've got a few films that come through, but how much do we know? There was 2 world wars, right? How much do we know about what has been what the way we hear about the Gestapo? They could just go into anyone's house and totally search everywhere and take whatever they wanted, and they had no accountability whatsoever. Do we know that the British weren't doing something like that in the 30s and 40s, or in America? Do they still do it in America or in other countries? What about Russia? We know that in Russia they've done that sort of thing. How do we know? We know, going back a little bit away in history, a few hundred years, they got rid of all the books that were not written in the modern languages that they developed, like English and the Mandarin Chinese. If it wasn't written in those languages, it was burned. And those languages were designed to be misleading. They're designed to be sort of like not concrete. They're plastic. See, that's the thing about all this stuff, the fucking around with the food and the oils, the polluting of the oceans. So they're destroying all the oily fish stocks. So it's getting harder and harder to get good quality oily fish that isn't polluted. And the dumbed down schooling. It's hard. It gets hard to find people that haven't been dumbed down, or we've basically all been dumbed down. We're only just science is only starting to realise now that what all this stuff does. This knowledge is, most people don't even realise what's going on. They don't know about vegetable oil causing you like really serious health problems. Most people are still eating it. You look at it when I go to the supermarket, how much vegetable oil is being sold as opposed to how much grass-fed butter. Because even the normal butter is not, if it's fed on grains, it hasn't got your omega oils in it, hasn't got your GLA in it. It's not very good for you. It's probably not what it's no. You might as well just stick with the vegetable oil. Now it has got a few extra things in it. It's got butyric acid and vitamins A and D. But it probably won't have much vitamin E or vitamin K2. See, one of the things is I heard about this like 20 years ago. Like it's just the thing with the oil, right? Now I know if you're not aware of this, or even if you've heard of it before, if you're not eating proper food, your brain's not working properly, so you can't understand what I'm saying. It's like gobbledygook to you. You're not making any sense out of what I'm saying. So this is why it's so difficult to get through to people and explain to them what's going on. You've been dumbed down, 1. You've been poisoned, 2. It's like you've been traumatized, 3. Because like you're constantly being traumatized, and it's a bit like an allergy trauma. You become like a bit like you want to have more of it, even though you're allergic to. You might be allergic to peanuts. I was allergic to peanuts, but I used to eat them all the time. I think I'm allergic to dairy as well, like cheese, because I keep eating it. But I've been eating them unpasteurized. And I feel pretty much okay, but it's like not 100%, nowhere near 100%. And so I'm thinking of I'm just trying to give it a few weeks without cheese. Which makes kind of difficult, trying to find food to eat. There's not that much around that I can buy. I get this. I'll show you what I've got at the moment, actually. See, I get some stuff from Asda. Asda's like it's like the Walmart of in Britain. It's like a Britain's version of Walmart. So these are like peppered mackerel, smoked mackerel. The reason I get the peppered ones is they used to do ones that weren't peppered, and I don't really like all that pepper on there. I'm going to scrape that off when I open that. That's all. That pepper's just going to be scraped off as much as possible, and I'll just eat it without the peppers. Try and get rid of it. But if I want it without the pepper, it's basically twice the price. I've noticed this with there's some really weird fucking stuff in some of the shops. I talked about it in Asda the other day, like the burgers, the wheat-free burgers. They put them in the free from section and added another 25% on the price, but they pay basically for the same burgers. For some reason, they do these flavored mackerel, and they're half the price of the other mackerel. I know it's hard to understand. I don't want to talk about it much more than that, Anyway, But the thing about these is they're pretty much from the wild. They're very rich in omega, and there's very little harmful stuff in there as far as I can tell. I get a good vibe off it. It's not the ideal fish that I want to eat, but it's wild and it's hasn't been cooked, so the omega oils are pretty much very intact. And yeah, they do similar things in some other places, but these are some of the better quality ones. I can tell by the taste, and the fact that it doesn't smell is usually very good quality. This other stuff, I've never actually. This is the first time I've ever had ribeye steak. I think I've never had it before, but apparently it's from Scotland, and it's from what I gathered from reading the back, it's forage-based diet, a traditional forage-based diet. So it's based on a traditional forage-based diet. So it's not. It might still have growth hormones and antibiotics and stuff in it. Probably has, because it doesn't say organic or anything like that. And it would, if it was organic, it would say it. Because they would want, because they could charge more money. So it's probably not completely organic. But as far as I'm concerned, it's not easy to. It's virtually impossible for me to. I can't buy a steak like that. That's pasture raised where I live. I don't know if I could get it online. It's not straightforward. One place I found I can get £50 worth of meat if I buy it all in one go. And initially you get a free delivery on the first order. But it's all frozen, and at the moment I haven't got a freezer, so it's just not straightforward at all. And otherwise, to buy small amounts and get it delivered, it becomes hugely expensive. I'd probably have to pay £20, just for a steak, or more, maybe more. It could be. I wouldn't be surprised if it was it was getting on for £30, £25, £30 just to order a steak, or maybe I could get 5 or 6. And it would work out a bit cheaper because I might have to look into it. It's like it's not straightforward. But anyway, this is heading in the right direction. It's based on a forage sort of diet, and it's the right time of year. This was harvested or slaughtered about probably the beginning of June, so there would have been a lot of forage stuff around. It's the main part of the year where you've got the most amount of growth, so hopefully it's pretty good. It's the first time I've had ribeye steak. Imagine it, I'm nearly 50, I've never had ribeye steak before. So I'm quite looking forward to that. See, I'm going towards this direction, of eating better quality meat, because that was like that steak's like £4. I could get a pound of beef burgers, twice as much beef, for in the same place for half the price. So you could get basically for that bit of beef there, that steak is costing me 4 times the price of like some quite decent beef burgers. Yeah, so that's one of the things I've noticed. I've found out about. If you want to eat properly, you just have to eat less. And I've noticed I've gone onto this intermittent fasting. What you do, you actually feel better, and you've got more energy, and you've just got more hours, and you can sort of like fit more hours in the day. You just got more energy and more time to do things. So I've got stuff done that I wasn't getting done doing intermittent fasting, just not having a breakfast, or maybe having some salt water. I have salt water in the morning sometimes. And then having fruit. I quite like fruit, like berries, for like when I break my fast, maybe like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and then have a proper meal, like maybe some steak and some vegetables or something, or salad later on in the evening, or like about 5 or 6 maybe. Well, just work it out. Sometimes maybe 2 or 3. I'll have the fruit and have the meal a bit later. I'm still working through it all to seeing what things work better. But yeah, what I've noticed quite soon from looking at starting it on this approach is that you start planning. You start planning your meals differently, because you're thinking of one main meal. So you're looking at a much more. You want it to be a really good meal that's going to really satisfy you, and so you can plan out your week. Each day you're going to want something different that's going to It's funny what it is. Right, in the morning when I'm not eating, because I'm stopping eating about about 8 o'clock and start eating about 1. So I've got about a 7-hour window. In the morning, I'm thinking, what does my body want today? Do I want liver? Do I want fish? Do I want a bit of steak? Do I want eggs? So one evening I had eggs with avocado, like avocado with a bit of mayonnaise and eggs. That seemed to be okay. That's the night I slept 8 hours after that, I think. Was it that night? Yeah. Anyway, I got an 8 hours sleep. That's pretty much unheard of for me. I woke up, and also I woke up and feeling really refreshed. It wasn't just sleeping for 8 hours and it's like, I woke up. I normally don't sleep anything like 8 hours. Lately I've typically been getting 2 or 3 hours sleep, a night, which is probably not enough. Unless maybe I'm just really healthy and I only need 2 or 3 hours. I don't know. But anyway, I got an 8-hour sleep and I woke up and I felt fine, like all bright. And I just went out for a 2-hour walk straight away. And the first thing in the morning, I woke up about 5 o'clock, 5:30. I think I went to bed about 8:30. I woke up at 5:30 or something like that. Or was it 4:30? It was about 8 hours anyway. So anyway, I think that you've probably suffered enough now. I'm going to stop this video. Thanks for watching. I've probably left out loads of stuff. I'm sure I've left out loads of stuff. Let me just finish. I can't finish it yet until I've finished. Okay, so right, you invest in this thing. You help to set up this community. If all you can invest is money, then to start with, yeah, you invest money. But what that will lead to, it will lead to a holiday. If you're quite young, like a holiday place where you can go on holiday for next to nothing or for free, where you can eat. It's not just going to be a holiday. It will take years off your life. You're going to be learning really, really important stuff there that's going to help you live better. So it's going to be like an institute, a research institute for human potential and well-being and success, But not only that, it's also going to be set up in such a way that if there's like an apocalypse situation, it's going to be strategically placed and set up with all the stuff that it needs to weather an apocalypse and survive and reseed the world afterwards. So it'd be like a sort of stationary ark, with all the different animals that you're going to need there, all the plants that you want there, growing like on a yearly basis, like being developing and living in a relatively close-knit community where you're refining and trying to develop the best ways of producing all this food, the best quality food, the most happy, successful people, the best sort of education. So it's going to be like a village, or a small town. We're probably going to want to do things like set up a blacksmith, like an old-fashioned blacksmith, to make sure that we've got the ability, to reproduce technology if everything else goes to shit and we haven't got any power, so we have to do it from scratch. It'd be nice to have that knowledge. So this could mean going around the world, finding people who's like their livelihoods are going down the shithole because there's no call for their skills anymore, because everything's like, say they're a blacksmith and all their all the stuff is being made cheaper by the Japanese and Chinese, you know, and they're getting all this sort of stainless steel, and they don't need like blacksmiths anymore, so they're losing all their old skills. We'd have to go around and like get people like that working for us, so they can carry on, and they will really appreciate it, so they can keep their skills alive, you know, and live in a meaningful community. There's so much stuff that can be done, and these things can be set up everywhere. It doesn't just have to be one or two. It can be like dozens or hundreds in every country. You know, all the flagging farms. As soon as you get it's not going to happen overnight. This could happen in theory, sort of like in 20 or 30 years, I suppose, or even, you know, because you've got to basically show that it works. It's going to take a while for it to get started. Once you've shown it works, hopefully that will be quick enough because the rate we're going, we need to do stuff. And the way I visualize this is that it's something that you could set up so that it provides loads and loads of solutions and loads of protection, insurance, redundancy, you know. If suddenly people haven't, you know, all the food lines dry up. I mean, it's not going to happen tomorrow necessarily, but in 30 or 40 years' time, you know, it could be that we start finding that there's not enough energy. We can't get natural energy anymore. Where are we going to get it from? You know, even if we get some sort of like nuclear type energy, like from thorium or something like that, there's still, like, we're dependent on fossil fuels for fertilizer at the moment. Now we only need small changes, but it's still eating properly. You know, we're basically poisoning everything at the moment. If you've got somewhere inland, you don't need like seafood. If you can create your own fish, grow your own, like trout's full of omega oils. If you're feeding them, like for example, hemp seed, which is very rich in omega-3, then in the right balance, then the food is going to be rich in omega-3. The trouts are going to be rich in omega-3. And I'm not sure if they're the same as salmon, but I imagine it probably is, but they've got EPA and DHA in there as well. But I really don't know, because apparently that comes from algae, which the trout wouldn't be eating. It's a shame what we're doing to the oceans, you know, destroying all the fish stocks, the salmon stocks. Salmon used to be a really abundant fish in Britain. I mean, all over the world, you know. Now it's just, I don't trust it with all the pollution. I'd like to have a Geiger counter so I could check the radiation levels on my tins of salmon and stuff. But the farmed salmon is just, it's all fed on like corn and soya, and it just, you shouldn't eat it. It's not how salmon should be. It's not full of omega-3s and DHA and EPA. Oh, moan. So one of the things about setting these places up and getting a Kickstart thing, one, you invest in a business that basically, if it succeeds, it will quite likely skyrocket. You know, it will be like the company of the future. It'd be like the you know, if you want to live, you will have to have shares in this company. You know, there'll be like a research institute. You get loads of privilege. I'm sure that you can find some way of making sure you've got loads of privileges. You can set up like a boundary, like, you know, So you prevent people getting in. You would need to defend yourself. You'd probably get everyone in a community. Everyone polices the community. So you train people up in unarmed combat, armed combat. The whole place should be capable of turning itself into an army at any moment. And defending itself against any invasion and stuff. So you'd have to probably stockpile, arms and stuff. And it's like, yeah, of course, a lot of people are frightened of this sort of thing because you're basically conditioned into being slaves. So I've like the sort of comments people leave when I talk about this stuff. Oh, but what about Waco? You don't want to upset the CIA or the FBI. They'll come and shoot you and stuff. And it's like, well, what's the alternative? They're basically, farming you like sheep. You haven't got a life. You're not eating proper food. You don't know how to think for yourselves. So what's the point of living if you're just living like a fucking sheep? Well, at least I'm alive. At least I can eat my grass and my McDonald's and watch cat videos on YouTube. Yeah, okay then, fine. Just go and watch cat videos and eat your McDonald's, whatever. Bye. See, I just this is only going to be for certain types of people, this kind of thing. Hopefully I can get people to recognize, this is what I want to get people to recognize, this is a great idea. It's almost like a win-win situation. You can't fail to win with this sort of setup. If it gets set up properly, it's just going to be like a total insurance policy, a really great investment, a fantastic lifestyle choice, and a fantastic adventure, and probably really profitable as well. Hi, Tassuda. Oh, who won the World Cup? You lost me there. I don't really follow football. You make it sound like Britain's won or England's won the World Cup, but I don't even follow football. I didn't even know there was a World Cup on. You must be talking about something else. Anyway, you just caught me at a bad time because I'm just about to end this video. Oh, England won. Oh, okay. Maybe I'm picking up on the vibe of it or something. Maybe I've been giving off vibes and that's why we won. It wouldn't surprise me. I'm having quite a good day. So I'm going to look on YouTube. Anyway, this video was just coming to an end anyway. It's quite a long video. Look, 1 minute, an hour 17. Feel free to go back and watch it, the whole thing all the way through. It's quite tedious, but I did cover some ground. So anyway, okay, thanks for watching, you guys. Please thumb up if you can be bothered, and share my video with some serious, rich entrepreneurs and billionaires if you can. Thanks for watching. Bye.